Hello there, Qckslvrslash, and today we have a video courtesy of Avarno in the Tier 8 Russian cruiser, the Chapayev. And the Chapayev is one of the strong options for the kind of Tier 8 chunk of ranked simply because it brings a radar. When I hit Tier 10, I actually did not succeed at all on my own, really in a destroyer. I just wasn't finding luck in them, and I pretty much tried all of them. And what I did find a lot of success in was my Des Moines, and that proved true right up to rank 5, and then from 5 to 1 I couldn't win games as regularly in the Des Moines, so I switched it up again, and I actually ended up finishing the season off in a smoke Yang. And there's a lot of games I loaded into where people really question my choice of bringing that ship, but that's definitely not a problem Avarno is going to have here. In the meta, the Chapayev is a strong ship. A little soft, but 12 barrels of HE can do a lot of damage to battleships quickly. It rips apart destroyers, and it has that radar. Now, Avarno here is on Northern Lights, which is a little different from the other version of this map. Normally, you'd be used to seeing an A cap kind of here, a B here, and the C cap over in this island chain, but for Northern Lights in this version, the caps all get kind of shifted over one. And I only played on this map once or twice myself and found it a little odd because it really just forces teams to go out and fight in the 1-2 because everyone wants to get their cap, and well, it's pretty silly to contest this C cap early on, especially with a radar cruiser about. Now you can see Avarno set up in the normal place for a radar cruiser to go, and that was as close to that cap as possible. He wants to be able to pop that radar the second someone starts taking C and obliterate them. Unfortunately, no one showed up yet, and you can see the Prince Eugen kind of going out on the flank where C normally would be on this map. I think hoping to be able to kind of kite around, just get the side and start doing some damage. Now obviously in a cruiser this many battleships, you have to be cautious. And this game really is going to come down to killing a couple of these BBs early, because then the friendly battleships are just going to be able to walk away with it. Conversely, if you can get rid of enemy destroyer, you know, the friendly DD is going to have a field day. I also find it a little funny that the enemy team has kind of brought the alternate versions of the same ships Avarno and the other friendly Prince Eugen have brought for cruisers. The enemy team's got a Qckslvrslash, so smoke, and the Hipper. And it just makes me chuckle a little bit that it worked out that way. I'd rather be in the Chapayev. The Qckslvrslash is an incredibly strong ship to farm in a random battle where you're able to just sit there and shoot. And that's what he's probably going to do most of this battle, but I don't think it is as good a utility ship as something like the Chapayev. And it's just the radar. If you end up in a game, now this is not my experience. My experience was, you know, 3-4 destroyers a game, maybe 1 or 2 battleships, and the rest cruisers. So one Benson on each side, well, a Benson and, a Benson on each side is a little abnormal in my opinion. The plus side, enemies not having a Chappie means enemies don't have a radar. So Benson's able to just edge into C. He throws his torps at the Richelieu, who's kind of pulled up against an island. I think making one of the big mistakes a lot of people sailing the Richelieu make, and that is, I'm just going to bow up somewhere, sit still, and shoot. And the Richelieu is much better using its speed to get the flanks of cruisers. It's not a good stationary ship, and you can see there eating some torpedoes and pretty much the focus fire of all of Avarno's team. So early on, things looking pretty sweet for Avarno's crew. They almost have C. It's being delayed right now by this Richelieu, but this Richelieu is just simply not going to last. See a number of ships firing at Avarno here, that incoming fire alert paying off, but they're not really doing a lot of damage. Even that Alabama, you know, 4,000, sure it's damage, but this enemy Richelieu is going to be gone long before. Now, unfortunately, you can see there the Benson, he's now spotted and gets worked down in a hurry. And that spells a bit of trouble because you're now down your kind of cap contesting ship. The Prince Eugen has gotten in behind the enemy ships, and you can see those shells just coming in occasionally, landing on the back of the Alabama, and hopefully that draws a couple ships off. I've had very successful games in ranked simply drawing a couple enemy ships away, and if you can get 2 ships to chase 1 ship down, you now have guaranteed your team a numbers advantage somewhere else on the map. That's always something to remember. If you're in a situation where there's a flanking vessel, you either commit a lot to it really quickly, get rid of it in a few seconds, or pretty much have to ignore it, or you can send something out to 1v1 it. What you can't afford to do is have 2 ships kind of haphazardly chase it across the map, being pulled away from the real fight. Now the only real big plus side right now is the teams are even. They got that Richelieu, and the enemy Benson wasn't able to get Charlie because, well, Ivarno's radar forced him out. Fortunate side, the radar only lasts so long, and well, he'll be able to get back in there sooner or later. The Bismarck is pushed fairly far forward. You can assume he's got Hydro ready or on, so that's going to keep the cap safe a little bit. And the reason I'm assuming the Bismarck had it on was just when those torpedoes were detected. Now you can see this enemy Tirpitz here just damage controlled, so that's going to be a prime target for Ivarno once he comes out from behind the rock. In the meantime, Ivarno choosing to just shoot the Bama. One thing you will notice as Ivarno shoots at the targets here is once he's lit a fire in one part of the ship, he adjusts his aim a bit. He starts looking for fires elsewhere. You want to spread that out, maximize that tick damage. So if you've got both chunks in the middle of the ship burning, you're either going to have to be landing shells on the bow or the stern to be lighting new fires. And well, so far hasn't been able to set a second one on the middle of the ship, and once again, Tirpitz goes behind land. It's time for him to get his guns going elsewhere. Now Ivarno is in a very aggressive position here, rather close to a couple quite powerful enemy battleships, and he's got to be careful. Luckily, for one reason or another, they're not really focusing him down too hard. You can see with those torpedoes coming through, he decides, okay, I'm going to get my radar up and it's time for him to go. Unfortunately, he's got to make this turn slow. Got a little close to land, and if he pumps it to full speed, he'll run himself aground, which is far worse. Now I think it's going to be safe to say that they managed to get rid of this Bama and Tirpitz, but they lose the friendly Eugen first. And that's a little unfortunate. He can't have been doing that great a job to be losing as much health as he did out there. You know, you're in a ship, and go dark, reposition, don't let them keep aiming at you. You can see Ivarno here just trying to land that final shot on the Bama. Doesn't manage to do so, but doesn't matter. They took another ship out, and they're still in a deadlock with the enemy team. Meanwhile, out on the flank, Kutuzov, Hipper, they're contesting a friendly Alabama and Monarch, and they're winning, and that's the way cruisers should do it. Their DPM, if they keep themselves at range, should really keep them more or less safe from a battleship, and battleships can't afford to just try to kite their way around that kind of fire. And that's what, to me, it looks like the Monarch and Bama are doing, and they're losing a lot of hit points for it. You can see the enemy Tirpitz there down to 1,000 HP. You want to get rid of them. Both the Bismarcks firing at their sister ship, hoping to land the shell that removes them. Meanwhile, Ivarno's team, they've gotten C, and this is important. You start to establish a points lead, and it's going to become more important because the Bismarck basically just YOLO'd around a corner at the Benson. And the Benson, it's forced to go forward. Thankfully, some friendly spotting aircraft are detecting him, so Ivarno's going to have the drop here. His radar is nearly ready. I think either those planes are still detecting him, or potentially this other Bismarck has up a Hydro. And I mean, looking at the AA fire, definitely the planes. And Varno's going to have to act quick here. The torps are fired. You know there's a time limit before he's going to have his next set. That is when you dive in at a DD. You do not dive in at a DD when you do not know they're missing both the racks of torpedoes. I see it way too often. Lost games because a single enemy destroyer managed to hold back our team simply by spreading out his fire. Now, I definitely question the use of AP there. Personally, just stick with HE, but he manages to finish him off, and the Benson very kindly left a smoke screen for a Varno to slip into. And if you're in a DD and you're dead to rights, and it's against something that you know is going to be able to detect you, don't lay a smoke. Yeah, I know it's hard. You want to use every bit you have to try to live and win a game, but laying a smoke simply allows the enemies to use it. And that's what Varno's doing here. He's gotten himself into position, and he's going to ride the smoke. He's got a basic 1 minute of safety. Now, with where the islands are, he would be pretty safe either way, but now there's pretty much a guarantee that he isn't going to get detected. You can see enemy Qckslvrslash starting to roll up behind, and well, the Bismarck is about to get finished off. And that means it's going to be a Varno versus 4 enemy ships. So we know what's on the line here. Solo warrior, and well, just a ranked win. And I can pretty much guarantee at this point his team's written this off as a loss. But you can see that fire damage ticking away on the Alabama. Varno's got AP loaded. He knows where that Qckslvrslash was. He's waiting. AP volley out. The Qckslvrslash returning in kind with HE, and that is a trade you take every day. 2 citadels for a few thousand damage in return. This volley should be the one to finish him off. Perfect, it does. And in the meantime, the Alabama burned down. So that was 2 quick kills, really swinging things, and the Benson smoke providing a getaway. Now the Hipper has managed to get into the friendly cap, but you've got a small point lead. This isn't the time to panic. The other thing that is kind of known but unknown is this enemy Tirpitz was on very low health. 1,000 hit points, really the last time it was spotted. It returns 24k. Okay, there's definitely some work that's going to need to get done if we remove this ship. As Varno disappears behind the island, you kind of expect him to go dark, but the Hipper is still spotting him, and smartly the Hipper is not shooting. The Hipper is going for the cap. He's waiting kind of to that last moment in the cap where you're never going to get rounds back in time to contest him. And of course now a plane is in the air. And this is going to be tight. They've still got a points lead. If Varno kills this Hipper or Tirpitz, it kind of builds on that lead and basically guarantees he'll be able to get another cap. He can't really offend to too aggressively defend C because he's pinched between 2 ships. So he's picked one that he's going for. Having seen the hit points of the Tirpitz, going for the Hipper is the right decision. Cruiser on cruiser, if you can get a 1v1, you know the Tirpitz is pinned somewhere down behind this island, probably not going to have shots. And Varno carefully making sure to stick close to these islands, making sure that that enemy Tirpitz really just doesn't have the correct line of sight to be able to hit him. And with the enemy Hipper going bow in, switches to HE, and you can see the Hipper choosing to use AP, every one of those shells sliding down his hull. So already Varno starting to make positive damage trades. And they're on pretty much equal hit points. The Hipper just damage controlled, and this one is getting tight. Both ships almost in torpedo range. The Hipper already is, but to use those torps, gonna have to turn pretty side on. And you know Varno's praying for a fire here. A fire would just go so far. Shows a little bit of bow there. The Hipper trying to slip some AP shells in unsuccessfully, and the rate of fire of the Chapayev really winning out here. Gets a little bold there to get the final volley off, showing probably a little more side than I would like to, but the Hipper shells don't land, and Ivarno is back on top. His team has reestablished about a 70-point lead thanks to that. Ivarno is very close to B, so he's going to be able to slip in the cap. Now the one downside, you'll notice, Ivarno is located. The Tirpitz has RPF. So the Tirpitz is going to know vaguely where Ivarno is, and that pretty much means he's going to have a hard time slipping away. The Tirpitz being a very fast battleship, and they're both in detection range. So there's really no way that Ivarno is going to be kiting away on this one. You know, he's not 0.1 away from getting out of detection. Overleading a bit there, you can see the secondary is going crazy, even getting a fire, and with Ivarno's hit points, he cannot afford to let that burn. Just trying to open range a little bit further, and at least he'll be out of the secondary battery range, and that'll go a long way. And the Tirpitz sailing at part speed there, I think really hurt his chances in this fight. Had he just pointed bow in and just charged in, kept the range a little bit closer, you removed some of Ivarno's advantage. Ivarno's advantage obviously being just the DPM and the fact that at range, the Tirpitz guns become less and less effective. They don't have the shell density or just the rate of fire to really work. And with something quick like a Chapayev, you can see that. Just a kick of the rudder, enough to duck those shells. Now granted, some of this is the Tirpitz not doing the best job aiming, but Ivarno's not sailing in a straight line broadside on. You can see continuously wiggling back and forth, and with that fire, that's a permafire. That is going to burn, which means with the scores tied now, the enemy's still having 2 cap points, this just moved into the field the possibility that Ivarno's winning this by kill, and that's really how he's going to have to do it, because there's no way for him to go dark and get into the cap. And you can see the team, everyone kind of knowing that Ivarno's got this, and he walks away with the win. Now, there are a lot of people in Ranked who talk about carrying a game based on damage alone, but damage ultimately doesn't mean a lot if you can't kill the enemies. In this one, Ivarno definitely did, got the Kraken, the Solo Warrior, High Caliber, and Arsonist. And what really enabled it was the one play. He was paying attention that Qckslvrslash was coming around the corner for him, and he had AP loaded, the right ammo for the right target, and basically erased all of that Qckslvrslash in one shot. The following up volley, basically just polishing him off. You know, the Alabama burning down, it helped, but he was on low enough health that one volley would have gotten him too, and then just won the engagement versus the Hipper and then the Tirpitz, and he kept them separate engagements, and that's the other key. 2,314 XP, top of the team. He deserves to be top of the team. You could almost give him 2 stars for that, because that was definitely going on to be a loss. But some of the reason it wasn't was, I think the other team got greedy. That Qckslvrslash should not have been there. He should not have been pushing like that. I think he smelt a free kill and instead got himself absolutely obliterated. I can guarantee you, once he and the Alabama went down in quick succession, it was like, oh no, it's not happening. And the interesting thing here is Ivarno's not running premium, and that really speaks to how much XP he got. And 188,000 credits, almost 10k to take home. And if you're playing ranked, the thing you care about is the win. You could do no damage, you could do all the damage. If you win, you're happy. If you lose, it sucks. And Ivarno got the win. Thank you very much for sending this one in, Ivarno. I loved watching it. It's great to see the Solo Warriors where you get it by fighting out and not going to the corner. Hope everyone else enjoyed it. If you did, please consider giving a thumbs up or subscribing to the channel. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash. I'll have another one for you all later.